close your eyes if you haven't already. We just take a few moments at the beginning of class to take stock. What's going on with your physical body? Just checking what is still half in bed or for some of you has been up for a few hours. What's sharply making its presence known by a little pinch or an ache or a thud. And then as we scan the physical body, scan your energy body. That's the body that is the sensory body and the emotional body. And noticing the relationship of your physical body to your energy body. And set your intention for your practice this morning. And see what comes up. If nothing comes up, that's fine. Nothing is one of the most beautiful concepts in yoga, the shunyata, the full, complete emptiness. It's a kind of seemingly contradiction, but to be empty is to be fully present in this moment. So if nothing comes up, that's amazing. If your intention is not to fall off the mat, that's pretty cool too. That means holding the center, holding steady. So it may sound like a mundane intention, but it can be translated to be quite rich. And take that intention and draw your palms together in front of the heart center. Take a few deep breaths. And then let's inhale for Om. On your next exhale, release your hands, flutter your eyes open, and take your spiky ball. And I'm going to move back onto the mat. And begin to press out, take it in one hand, and you're pressing out all the way around. So it's a little easier, Gresha, if you do it on the mat. The floor like makes it really hard and also digs into the court floor is kind of, yeah, a little soft, yeah. But I find it also slips out from under me when I do it on the hard floor. Let's begin to press in all the way around the circumference, the center, and then begin to rinse from the wrist to the thumb, the wrist to the index finger, rolling it out. And then do what we call scribble, which is just to go any which way, back and forth, go back to a place that needs it. And then pause, place both hands on the earth. Notice the difference. One is way awake and the other one still in bed. So bring it on. Do the next one. And often this space right here, the thenar eminence, the little mound right at the base of the thumb, can be quite tender. It can get strained, just as the carpal tunnel, the wrist can as well. Then begin to rinse from wrist to thumb. And scribble. And release. Set the ball aside for now. Come to hands and knees. And I invite you, if your knees feel uncomfortable on the floor, that's what blankets are for. That's what padding is for. So we'll warm us up. Looks like Gresha and Shelley are already warm, but I'm going to give it a couple of moments. All right, round and arch the back, cat-cow. As you exhale, tuck your tailbone, lift your belly button up into your spine, bow your head. Then inhale, sits bones lift and widen. Shoulder blades slide down the back, Collarbones lift, head lifts. Do this with the breath, rounding and arching. And then let's add a little dimension to it. So take one of our friendly blocks and place it between the thighs. Walk the knees in so you can give a squeeze to the block. This will help you engage the core this early in the morning. Oh my gosh. So as you squeeze the block and tuck the tailbone, then press the block forward towards your hands. Bow your head. This is a cat, like a Halloween cat. On the inhale, squeeze the block and move the block backwards for an inner rotation. That gives a curve in the low back, and you do cow. So use the block and go really slow and work the core deeply. Pull the belly button up and in. Keep the belly button engaged as you press the block back. Don't let the belly just, old gray mare, kind of flop down. Oh, this gets me deeper into my sacrum, actually, which is pretty stiff and tight right now. With the breath, slowly, consciously keeping the core engaged. And then release. All right. Walk your hands about a handprint distance in front of your shoulders, your knees about a handprint distance behind your hips, so you're in unstable table. Tuck your toes, shift back. Get some talk here. Claw the floor and unfurl into downward facing dog and walk your dog, bending your knees, pedaling the feet. Okay, I'm already warm. And walk your hands back to your toes, forward bend at the back of your mat. And either half forward bend or full forward bend as I disrobe here. Oh, half forward bend is knees bent, elbows on the thighs, or full forward bend if it's not straining anything. It's just full forward bend. In any case, wherever you are, lift your belly button up into your spine. Tailbone energetically shoots down. Hands on your hips, come up halfway. Shrug your shoulders, lift the head of the arm bones towards the sky, and then use the legs to hinge from the hips and rise up. Whew. Release. Too much heat. This is not heated yoga. Click off in a second. All right, we are up. Find your strap. Open the chest. Oh, sorry, I forgot to bring you a strap. Do you see them there? Okay. Fairly wide, because they're not the stretchy straps. Use the legs. So whenever we're doing something with the upper body, the legs want to be steady and strong. Press down through the four corners of the feet and pull up like you're pulling up a neoprene dive suit all the way up. Keep that belly button in, tailbone in, lift and pull down into the lat bar, cactus pose. So the elbows are roughly right angle and start to pull them back, pull the elbows back. And notice what happens here. A couple of things happen. Your bottom ribs either pop out, that's my trick, or you collapse and drop the head forward. So we always have ways to squeeze out like toothpaste out of a tube to move out of this space. So keep it here and release. Take it behind you, about hip width apart. Again, steady the legs, bend the knees. Shrug the shoulders to lengthen the side body. Move the head of the arm bones towards the back body to open the chest. Then move the top and bottom of the ear. So a lot of times when we open the chest, the head will drop forward. So we'll pull in and the core is engaged. So lift. It's like you're zipping the tight jeans up, tight jean jacket. I know after this COVID, I've put on a little bit, so they're all tight. All right, strong legs. Hinge from the hips as you either come halfway up and lift the arms or
all the way over. You can soften the knees as much as you need to. Keep the belly pulled up and in. Don't lose the core, even in the forward bend. Lift the arms. Inhale as though someone's pulling you from your wrist. Inhale your way up. Oh, thank God. So here's an interesting, take your block, just a shoulder warm up that I got from my teacher. She's in Maryland, but I'm studying from her online again. I used to do it when I lived there. All right, so just hold the block. Thankfully, these are light blocks. And if we're down here, turn the block out, right? So put it in your right hand, I guess would be, I'll switch just to mirror you. All right, turn the palm out so you're outer rotating the arm. So just take a moment. If the shoulder goes out, that's outer rotation. If you roll in, that's inner rotation. So just take a moment just from the hip socket. I can do it just from the hands without moving anything, but just hip socket. That'd be the shoulder socket, right, Dan? Just the shoulder socket in, and certainly the hand comes with it, but you're just trying to isolate the shoulder socket. Now turn it out, and with a little resistance, like there's sandbag on top of this, lift it up until you feel the point where it says, oh, for some people it may be here, for some people it may be here. Now rotate in so you're turning the palm towards the back wall, and without lifting up and over, move it back. So this is where I get stuck. So you have to come out a little bit. Some people might have the whole range of flexibility, close, but still. So turn it down slowly until the back of the hand is near the hip, then turn it out. Very slowly, place your left hand on your ribs and notice that as you come up, yes, the ribs lift, so pull the ribs in and down. As you turn and go back, the tendency is to go with it. Stay steady, nothing moves, but this articulation of the shoulder joint. And the slower, the better. Very sensitive, lifting like you're resisting and lifting something heavy. And when it won't go any further, you go back. Now, the next time you come down, don't come forward, go back. And here you'll have to rotate it in the socket and pull it up. So you have to go slowly to find it. Try it again, go up. And as soon as you find that impingement point, okay, it's stuck, you have to rotate in the socket, not the body, but the whole socket to bring it down. Just focus, isolate there, then go back. This is where it's interesting because I have to rotate back a lot faster to pull it up and over. Feel the warmth in the shoulder already? All right. Let's try it again. Thought I'd turn that off. And yet, there, I heard it. I have a feeling I made it warmer. Let's see if I can get this together. All right. So just play a moment on the other side, hands on the ribs. So what happens is we get everything, because the shoulder, you might not have much movement in this if your shoulders are really stuck and frozen, but just feel the rotation of, this is your humerus bone, the big upper arm bone, rotating it in the socket. And yes, the hand comes with it, but I could just do this, but no rotation will happen. Now begin to make the circle very slowly. You're turning the palm up. Notice the ribs, keep the ribs steady. As soon as you feel the impingement, you rotate, or it's a stoppage, like it won't go any further. Rotate and start reaching back. Here's where we want to turn, without throwing the head forward, without changing anything. So if you're having to change the head, change the ribs, and then come back. So go back, reverse it. Oh, so you go down, up and over, and then back and over. So just notice what has to change. If I do it fast, I won't notice it. I also won't feel it. You're pulling the head of the arm bone into the shoulder socket. And also the tendency, I just noticed something I did was I tilted, right? So there's that tendency to tilt away from it. So if that happens and I feel the urge to tilt, then I'm going to pull it out to the side a little more so I have a little more freedom in the movement. This means I was trying too hard. All right, release. Good thing I didn't have you do that with 5-pound weights in your arms, right? Or not. 5-pound weights for me get heavy very quickly. All right, step to the top of your mat. I'm gonna pretend this is the top of my mat. I know I have this large lily pad. It's very strange, but we're online because I'm changing direction so much. I feel like thought I'd try it out. All right, stand well, feet parallel. Lift all 10 toes, press into the 4 corners of the feet. You lift all toes, 4 corners of the feet, press down. That's the ball of the foot nearest the big toe. Lift your inner arch, press the inner heel down. You'll notice the muscles and the inner legs start to pull up. The muscles above the kneecap start to engage. Keep that and fan from the inner heel to the outer ball of the foot nearest the baby toe. Keep the toes up. At least in your mind, in your imagination, lift your outer arch and tack the outer heel down evenly. So just like you want all 4 tires on your car to be even, like you don't want one to be putting more weight than the other, all 4 corners of the feet. Keep that. Imagine you're hugging a block between your heels. So hug the heels together isometrically. Micro bend the knees, push the shins forward. Keep that. Don't lose the hug of the heels. Take the upper inner thighs back and widen the inner thighs. You have to engage the core to do that. This is a lot of work. Now bring it on home, where as the tailbone lengthens and the legs lengthen but not lock at the knees, the toes go down and now you're steady. Rise up. Exhale, bow forward. Inhale, prepare. If you're down there, have your blocks near you. Now I tell you. And step your right foot back, straight leg lunge. Light on the fingertips. So there's very little weight on your hands. Stand, walk your blocks back on either side of your feet. There you go. Well, it would be foot singular because you can't do it by both feet. Lift the back heel high, just up on the toes. Bend the front knee. If the front knee starts to come over the ankle, that tells you you can step back and be a little braver. Light on the fingertips. Blocks can be as high as they need to be, but the spine stays the same relationship to the floor. Lift your belly button up and in, straighten the front leg, bend the back knee, and then back to bend, straighten. Straighten, bend, straighten. Straighten, bend. Oh, at your own pace. Just light on the fingertips. And some of you may practice the balance, the Lokmano hands, where the hands are resting on your sacrum. Shrug your shoulders, lift the head of the arm bones, and try the balance. Oh. And then with your blocks or hands, depending on what you need, step your back foot up a little bit, so all your weight's on your front foot, and shift forward into standing splits using the blocks or the hands. Lift the back leg as high as it goes, with the inner edge of the thigh moving up faster, the outer edge of the right hip moving down. Then hug your outer left hip in to lengthen the left leg and pull the right leg in for a landing, both feet on the ground. Hands on your hips. Soften your knees. Hug your heels together and the inner thighs move wide apart. Shrug your shoulders. Lift the head of the arm bones to the sky. Inhale, hinge from the hips. Rise up. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, bow forward. Inhale, prepare. Step your left leg back, straight leg lunge. Use your blocks or hands on the floor. Depends on how your hips are feeling this morning. In lunge, light on the fingertips, so we're not completely dumping our weight. The legs are doing their job. And exhale, bend your back knee, straighten your front leg. And inhale, back to lunge. So the torso, the spine, is roughly parallel with the floor, and it's just sliding back and forth. You're not doing any rounding or flexing of the spine. Staying pretty neutral, just the legs. You can play with balance. Lift the head of the arm bones so you're not rounding over. Pull the belly button up and in, back and forth. And then come in for standing split. So hop the back foot up to shift all your weight on your front foot. Walk your hands forward with or without the blocks and lift the back leg. Inner edge of the left thighs moving up faster to the ceiling as the outer left hip's rolling down towards the floor. It will force you not to lift the leg as high, actually, to keep the sacrum square. Now hug the outer right hip in so you have room to pull your left foot in for a landing. Hands on your hips, shrug your shoulders, come up halfway. Take a breath. Next, inhale, hinge from the hips, rise up. And release. Dan, you okay? Yep. Okay. All right, let's get you warm, right? Your happy yoga smile? What's stiff today?
Oh, this is good. I'm getting out my sacred L5 with the sacred is starting to loosen up.
Good, good. The cat-cow will usually do that, the undulation of the spine. All right, let's keep going. We're having so much fun. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, bow forward. Inhale, prepare and step your right leg back, straight leg lunge. Lower your back knee to the floor, pat it as you wish. Back knee is behind the hip, so at least a couple of inches, but pat it. Keep the back toes tucked, even though the classic pose is to untuck. Use blocks as you need them on either side. Now scissor the legs together. Keep your back toes tucked if you can, Dan. Oh, I'm rhyming already this morning. And I'm such a bad rhymer. All right, scissor the legs in as though you were gonna lift up, but just before that happens, you feel what the muscles have to do. It keeps the back knee a little lighter. You're not jamming all the weight on the back knee. So scissor in and then lift up, hands on the front thigh. Push into the front thigh, shrug the shoulders, move the head of the arm bones back, pull the belly button up and in, scoop the tailbone and slide the side ribs back. So it's almost like you're doing a little bow. You're not collapsing. It's a little bow in the upper body. And keep the ribs back and down as you lift the shoulders, lift the head. Shift your hips forward a little bit more, as long as you're not feeling a pinch in the low back. Nice. And release. Come back up to lunge. Step back, plank pose. Oh. Lower your knees to the floor, but try not to put much weight on the knees. So they're down, but it's as though they're about ready. You have maybe 30% of your weight on the knees. Claw the floor with the hands. Head of the arm bones move into the shoulder socket so you soften the heart. Now, little baby, we're going to do these push-ups 2 different ways each time, but this time the elbows, the forearms stay straight up and down and you shift forward. So you're not doing this. You're shifting up, and even if it's an inch down, keep the core strong. You're just moving, claw the floor. Little chaturangas, hug the elbows in towards the midline. They're not popping out to the side. They're moving back towards the hips, actually, if they're moving at all. But the forearms are straight up and down. All right, enough of that. Downward facing dog. Step your left foot forward, straight leg lunge. Lower the back knee, keep the back toes tucked. Scissor the legs together, get as light as you can on the back knee. There is some weight on it, but as little as possible. Bring your hands to your front thigh. Scissor in more. It's like you're about ready to lift up. That's how little weight is on the back leg. Zip it up, zip up the tight jean jacket, pull it in, tailbone down. Now, as you push into your front thigh, move the side ribs back. So it's like a little, you're feeling that zip, the contraction, xiphoid to tailbone zip, bottom tip of the sternum. Keep that as the shoulders lift, collarbones lift, shoulder blades slide down the back. Shift your weight a tiny bit forward, still keeping the zip and the scissor together with the legs. Breathe. Release. Step back, plank pose. Lower the knees. This time, walk your hands out pretty wide. So now we will do where the elbows come right over the wrist, not outside of it because that's not stable, but pretty wide. And now do little bitty push-ups here where the forearms essentially stay, they come together a little bit as you straighten. You don't even have to straighten much. You can go down an inch, up an inch. Doesn't have to be much. Pull the belly button up and in, the xiphoid to tailbone, bottom tip of the sternum towards the tailbone and vice versa. Woo! Warm, release. Walk your knees apart, toes together, and come to rest in a child's pose. You can rest your forehead on a block or stacked on your hands. And breathe. And inhale your way up. Come to sit, find your strap. Oh, we didn't roll out the feet, did we? My feet are still asleep. So I recommend sitting on a blanket. So Gresha, you can either sit facing that way or sit facing to the middle, then you have the whole use of you need a round mat too if you're gonna, that's fine. If everybody had a round mat, just imagine what chaos would reign then. I know, I'm under my lotus. I've got my green kind of pond scum leggings on. We're ready. All right, so sit up, bend your knees, and you bend your knees enough, and the knees are pointing straight up like you have a candle on your knees. They're not dropping in or out, and you don't want the wax to fall. And the toes are going straight to the ceiling. So you sit up enough that you can lift and roll to the frontmost and innermost edge of the sits bones. So Dan, bend your knees more. Now tilt your pelvis forward, not the chest, pelvis. So as soon as I said that, you left that here and you went here. So you lift up and out of your pelvis and tilt forward. And you can use the strap to help you pull back. Nice, Shelly. So pull the chest through. You hug the elbows in. So here's what's going to happen. If you let the elbows come away from the center, then all you're going to use is this rotator cuff, and that's not what it's designed to do. So you pull it back, hug the elbows in towards the ribs so the chest can come through. Hug your elbows closer, Shelly, towards the ribs. See, this is why I need my eyes done. Got it. Check. Sorry. I'm so blind. Oh, I can't wait. All right, and then you pull up. Now, from here, with some tension, I've got a fair bit of tension, like a guitar string, strung, the chest is up. Start to push the feet forward. As soon as you notice that you're having to roll back, that's where you stop. That's where you play. Some of you might be able to stretch forward Allison, don't lock the knees. You're really good at watching that, but don't, Allison's online. Don't lock your knees down. So you still keep a little micro bend. They feel bent, look straight if they're straight. Otherwise, keep them bent. Now from here, just as we worked the shoulder socket, we're working the hip socket. So you're moving the legs out from the hip socket against, they won't move much. You're exhaling, pressing from the hip socket, the legs out against the strap, and then inhale, just soften. Don't work so hard. Exhale, push out. So it's a tiny move. You're pushing out this way, not back and forth. So you're not moving the upper body. Just push the legs from the hip socket. The legs push out on the exhale. You feel that deep, that works deep in here. And then release. So don't do 24/7 effort, right? Give it a break. Exhale, push out. And remember when I said widen the inner thighs, this is a way of doing that as well. So you're pushing, widening the inner thighs, pushing the legs out from the hip socket, but you feel it with the edge of the baby toe edge pushing against the strap. Release, keep doing that. Push out and lift. Keep lifting the chest. So we get busy working on the lower body and the upper body collapses. Anybody's hip flexors tiring? Mine are. And release. Take a break. We'll come back to the other side. Feet mat width apart, wider than hip width apart. Lean back, perch up on your fingertips. So you can lift the chest. What we don't want is this. Nice. All right. And then drop the knees over to the left. Sit all the way on your left bum. Just roll all the way over on it. And the right knee can drop down or not. Shelly, sit up and just drop all the way over. There you go. Good. Now, if you'll widen your feet wider apart, so if we're close here, we get jammed up. But if we're wide, then we have room to drop. Walk your hands around the back and say, what's back there? What did I lose back there? As the legs stay where they are. Nice twist in the upper body. Next, inhale, walk your way back to center. Come back to the wide bent knee position. Drop the knees all the way over to the right. You're sitting all the way on your right bum. So Dan, you have to widen your knees. So if the knees are close, you're not getting the same open. So wide, sit back up. I would say off your mat, all the way off your mat. There, now drop. There we go. Then walk around. Twist and stretch, twist and shout. Starting to date myself on that one. That was my high school. Inhale, walk back around, come back to center. All right, round two. This time, bend the knees out, kind of a froggy sit, sort of. Strap around the bottom of the feet, all your feet. And again, the knees are straight up. What we will tend to do here, and as wide as you can get it, so you will come off your mat, yeah, really wide. Knees can stay bent, so you lift up, you're on your innermost and frontmost edge of the sits bones. So Dan, bend your knees a lot. There, now, you see how you can lift up there? And you start to feel a little more stretch here. If I roll back, I feel nothing here. I don't try it. Like if you roll back, it takes pretty much all the juice out of it for me. But you just feel that rolling back and forth on the sits bones. It's a form of cat-cow. So you lift up and then pull back. So now it's like you're driving a team of 8 horses as opposed before you had a 1-horse carriage. All right, dig your heels into the earth. Bend your knees more, Shelly. Pull them as best you can, bend them. There you go. Now dig your heels into the earth and drag your heels isometrically back towards your hips. You feel that. Then keep lifting in the upper body. And then you only push out, the feet push out against the strap until you say, that's enough for me. So this may be plenty. You're feeling stretch here, inner thighs and the back of the hamstring, or you might want to go further. So don't lock the knees. So you're still keeping a little micro bend in the knees. Keep lifting up. Now from the hip socket, push the legs into the strap. And inhale, soften. Exhale, push. So Dan, part of your wide stance is a little too narrow. Yeah, you have to go way off your mat on that one. Wide, wide, wide. Go for it. Now bend your knees so you can, yeah. You feeling a stretch on the inner thighs? Okay, he's not talking to me. Mhm. He's doing the chicken lip, which is completely pressing the lips together and, huh? Yeah, and I know your legs are long, but the straps are pretty long too. So you can keep the knees as bent as they need to be to sit up. For some of you, you might not be feeling anything, so you can tilt, not collapse, tilt. So Shelley, no tilt for you because you're not yet upright. No, you're back here. There you go. But hug your elbows in, don't use the shoulders. So if you're using this, you're using too much shoulders. So I have the hands pretty, I'm just wrapping them around so they're holding, but I'm not having to use much upper body strength to keep the straps. Now press out. Oh, anybody's hip flexors getting tired? And soften. Press out from the hip socket, like you're widening your inner thighs all the way down to the feet. Press out and release. Press out and release. All right, enough of that silliness. Did you feel that?
Like when you have to hold, like, where you have like.
Yeah, so you're pretty flexible, naturally flexible. So that is really good for you because it's going to steady your joints so that as you get older, your joints don't completely collapse. Allison's getting a kiss goodbye. Her husband came in and gave her a kiss goodbye. Bye, have a good day. All right, how sweet. All right, roll onto your back, have a block near you. Oh, and this is the point where I say, oh, I love this floor. I love being flat on my back on the floor, but we are not finished. I'm going to do a little core work here. Why not? All right, place the block between your knees. Right now, the feet are on the floor. And as you press your feet into the earth, pull the heels isometrically towards your hips, and you'll notice your back waist curves off the floor. That's like cow pose. And then push your feet isometrically away from your hips, and your back waist starts to flatten to the floor. Do that a few times, just in the hips. You're not having to lift anything, but it's a gentle, small movement, but you're rocking the hips back and forth just by pushing and pulling with the feet. Now, the next time you pull the heels towards the hips and the back waist is off the floor, or at least the energy of the back waist is moving away from the floor, drop your belly button down to the spine. It lowers the back waist a tiny bit, but do not flatten the back waist onto the floor. Keep it engaged. Pull the bottom ribs towards your pelvis and the side ribs towards the floor. Still keep just a hair of a remembrance of the space behind the back waist. Snuggle your shoulder blades underneath you, and then come to your tippy toes and lift the knees just over the hips, not too close. You want to keep, if you pull the knees in too far, too fast, the back waist will flatten. So keep a little bit of lift in the back waist, but the belly button drops down like an airbag to support the front of the vertebrae back there, the lumbar spine. Keep this and beach babe your hands. That means you can hold the back of your head with both hands and just rest your head on your hands and the fingers are on the floor. So you're not trying to lift the head yet. And lift the elbows a tiny bit, not letting them flop out completely. Just lift the elbows a little bit and pull the shoulder blades back on the back. Check the belly, the core, to make sure you haven't dropped it, collapsed it, and breathe here a moment. So just doing this
keeping the core strong, squeezing gently. You don't have to try to flatten the block, but you're engaging the block between the knees. Flex your feet if you've got that. To add a little bit more, lift the shins so they're parallel with the floor, like you fell over on a chair and you just stayed in that position. Like the dolls, when they fall over, they just stay. And then keep that, draw your side ribs back down to the floor and lift your head just a little hair off the floor. The fingers may still touch the floor. Rest your head back into your hands so you're not straining at the neck. You're just engaging a little more of the upper abs. Breathe here. Can always come in and out of it. Once it goes into your jaw and your neck, it means your core probably quit. So you just keep working here.
And release. Remove the block, shake off, call wimpy abs.
We'll get to you eventually. Come back. This is, we call this full beach babe with the head, the hands behind the head. And again,
Notice if your elbows just collapse out, you'll start to pop the head of the arm bone through towards the armpit,
but soften the armpits back, like someone poked you in the armpit and you would pull away saying, don't do that. So the elbows don't point to the ceiling, but they come up a bit more than they would naturally. And then squeeze an imaginary block between your knees. You know what it feels like, so you can do it. Pull your heels back towards your hips, get a little low back curve, zip up the tight jeans, zip up the tight jean jacket, pull it all into the center. Side ribs moving down towards the floor. Keep the throat and the neck soft and the lips and the face soft. And then lift one knee just over the hip and tap. So just tap, come to your tippy toes and you just slowly change knees, tapping, never putting the weight back down on your feet, but just slowly alternating. And notice if the bottom ribs start to pop up here, as I was talking, I noticed my bottom ribs released. So this is harder to do talking, but what it does assure is that I'm not clenching my throat and my face. So you're just tapping back and forth, just the toe, slowly. So I can do it fast, but I'm not really feeling my core. The slower you go, the deeper it goes. Now release and just relax as you need to. You can do that, or round two is the same thing, only you're lifting the heart. You're curling it a little bit, but it's more like you're lifting the heart towards the ceiling. The head might come off the floor a bit more or not. If you feel the strain in the neck, keep the head down, but the head is heavy in your hands. There's no work in the neck. And then when the right knee comes up and the left knee goes down, the left armpit stretches towards, the right armpit stretches towards the left knee, holding, and then inhaling back to center, change. So it's a very slow cross, super slow and tiny. You're really watching what's happening. What's happening, as Tacky the Penguin says. It's a book I read to my 6-year-old granddaughter.
What's happening? Tacky's an odd bird,
but he's quite useful to have around. Why, you might ask, is she drifting off into Tacky the Penguin land? Well, huh? I know, it's taking my mind off the core work is what it is. And if I can get you to laugh, which I don't know is going to happen, then you really find where your core is. All right, release. Wide feet, wider, as wide as the hip, as wide as your mat, and just windshield wiper the knees back and forth. Easy with the breath, no fast, just slow. I don't know what my sentence construction is doing today, but definitely not the English teacher in me coming out. Oh, Chewy, what's up, buddy? Yeah. All right. Find your block again. Bend your knees. Lift your hips, Slide the block, the lowest level, under your sacrum that's down by your tailbone, so not up into your waist, and just rest your sacrum on the block. And robot the arms, bend the arms at the elbows with the fingertips to the ceiling. Push into your elbows to lift your shoulder blades a little bit and squinch them, snuggle them under you, then tack the head of the arm bones back down. That lifts the chest. So here, you're lifting the chest and the bottom ribs tend to poke out. So without collapsing the chest, pull the bottom ribs towards your pelvis and the side ribs towards the floor without losing any of that upper back opening. That engages the core. Soften the neck, press the center back of the head into the earth. As the chin lifts a little bit, the sternum moves towards the chin. As the chin plays a little hard to get, not moving too fast, just in relationship to the sternum, the breastbone. The legs aren't really having to work here because your hips are supported, but the legs are steady, just not holding any weight right now. The block is holding all the weight of your hips. Restorative bridge pose. There are variations here. You can stay right here, or you've got to really engage the core. It's a little more work. So if you're tired, just stay here. If you want a little bit more work, zip the jeans, zip the jean jacket, pull it all in, keep the low back lifting, come to your tippy toes. And again, bring the knees just over the hips, not forward of the hip socket, just over the hip socket. And then either come to fallen over chair, just another one, or straighten the legs without collapsing the chest, without poking the bottom ribs out. You've got a lot going on here. Simple pose, at least visually, a lot going on. What to work, what not to work, what to engage, what to release. You can even place your hands on your bottom ribs. Like right now, for me, my bottom ribs just want to fly off. So I'm reminding myself by placing the hands on the bottom ribs to keep them down and back. And then slowly bend the knees and place one foot on the floor, then the other foot, and rest in supported bridge pose for a few more moments. On your next inhale, lift your hips, slide your block out from under you. Roll over to sit up for a moment. You can do regular Shavasana on your back, or if you will be on computers a lot today, or anything that's causing you to round over, taking care of children, gardening, driving, any of those things, come to supported fish pose for a supported chest opening for final relaxation. If you're at all cool, I do keep the fans running for the circulation. But if you're at all cool, then pull a blanket over you. But you have the blocks here, like here and here in a T-pose. This one's for your head. This edge is about right here, right at the bottom tip of the shoulder blades, about on the top of the bra line, or depending on what kind of sports bra you have on. It's right there in the back of the heart center. Then rest back, the head on the block. Not what you want to do. This is your practice. You find the sweetness. Gresha, how does that feel for you? Yeah, I love it. Then the knees can stay bent. You can knock the knees together, pigeon toe the toes in, or you can straighten the legs. Back of the thighs move towards the floor. Whatever works for you. Just don't let the legs flop out. Kind of maybe knock them in a little. The feet can knock into each other. And the arms are at your side, palms up, so the shoulder blades can move onto the back even more.
And follow your breath. And so we're hearing a lot of mechanical action outside, a big truck sounding like some sort of hydraulic lift. So in meditation, in relaxation, our job is we can note any sounds going on outside the room, inside the room, but we choose not to attach a judgment to it, not to attach a preference. It's just sound. And as you acknowledge any sounds around you, gradually drop deeper inside and notice the beating of your heart, the flow of your breath. Begin to deepen your breath. As your breath deepens, bring gentle movement through your fingers and toes, hands and feet, stretching in any way you want. And if you're up on the blocks, be careful as you bend your knees and roll to your side and rest on your side for a few moments. And rolling a little more towards the floor, use the strength of your arms to push yourself up to a seated position. Sit well. You can sit on blocks, blankets, cross-legged, any way you want. And draw your palms together in front of the heart center. Revisit the intention that wandered up for you as we sat in the beginning centering. And notice how it might have played out for you in your practice on your mat. And then envision that intention playing out for you the rest of the day. If it was nothing, how can you hold that sense of full, pure emptiness? A sense of being fully present in the moment. If it was just not wanting to fall off your mat, how can you practice a sense of centeredness throughout your day? We say the Sanskrit word namaste and bow at the end, which means I honor the light that shines in me. I honor the light that shines in you and all beings and all things throughout the universe. Namaste.